Even before the college basketball season started last fall, Anthony Edwards was one of the prospects that NBA scouts believe could be the number one pick in the 2020 NBA draft. The feeling is that he could still be the number one pick. Edwards definitely has the size and skill set to be considered for the top selection. This guy is 6'5", weighs in around 225 pounds, and has elite athleticism. Even though he needs to improve it, he showed enough handles to create his own shot. He'll pull up from anywhere on the court. There were plenty of times where he took matters into his own hands and took over the game. Remember the game he had against Michigan State at the Maui Invitational? The game where he scored 33 points in the second half to give his team a chance to complete the upset. The team fell short, but that didn't take away how amazing he was in that game. And in their last game at the Maui Invitational, Edwards did this.
Double team him right here.
Edwards with 4, Edwards with 2, lets it fly for the win. Got it! With 2/10 of a second left, Anthony Edwards continues to show why he's got NBA potential. Drops in the likely game winner.
Edwards closed the game out as he scored 24 points, grabbed 8 rebounds, and handed out 3 assists. This freshman phenom ended up averaging 19 points a game. Everything seems all good, right? Not necessarily. There have been plenty of questions about Edwards' game that NBA scouts are concerned about. Edwards' style of play can give you a great highlight reel, but does that style of play result in elevating your team and winning? He does settle a lot. Playing hero ball was something he did countless times in his freshman year. He shot only 40% from the field and 29% from 3. He had 91 assists and 87 turnovers. He was one of 75 college basketball players who attempted at least 4 pull-ups per game, and his 29% field goal percentage on those pull-ups was tied for 71st. Georgia finished 13th out of 14 teams in the SEC standings. But you could argue that was mostly because of the lack of talent he played with at Georgia. Based on his age at 18 and his lack of help around him, you could probably say the NBA scouts should give him a pass. Most people will understand that because it's fair to question the space that Edwards had to work with. He was the only freshman in the Power 5 conference who had a usage rate over 30%. Another prospect who had a similar usage rate and true shooting percentage was Boston Celtics star Jaylen Brown. Brown's overall offensive game was questioned a lot when he played at the University of California. They questioned could he ever get a consistent jump shot, and could his handles improve enough to be a good shot creator. And about 4 years later, Jaylen Brown is a rising star in the NBA. Even though he did not make the All-Star team this year, he absolutely played like an All-Star. Jaylen Brown will be the best comparison for Edwards in trying to project his game in the NBA. But one thing about Jaylen is, he bust his butt to get where he is today. He had the talent, but he wouldn't be the two-way player he is today without hard work. Does Anthony Edwards have that? Does he have the drive and dedication to become the best player he can be? Or is he going to try to coast through the NBA on his talent alone? Edwards did show the lack of focus and effort at times at Georgia, especially on defense. Strong defensive tools doesn't always translate to becoming a good defender on the next level. You could say that his laziness and lack of effort was because of the team he played with and how they didn't have a chance to win on most nights. Ben Simmons did not always play hard at LSU, but he's now one of the best defenders in the league and could very well make his first All-NBA defensive team. Those are the questions that most scouts have about Edwards' game. Now let's talk about why some top teams in the draft would consider passing him up. The Golden State Warriors, Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Minnesota Timberwolves have the best odds to get the number 1 pick. The Warriors are in this position because of injuries. They're in a unique situation because they will be able to compete for a championship next season, and they will have the opportunity to get a top prospect in the draft. Anthony Edwards will be a good choice for the Warriors, and this could be the best place for Edwards to start his career at. Playing with superstars and playing with an A+ organization could help Edwards reach his full potential. Building good habits is very important for a prospect who has shown a lack of discipline and effort on occasion. But is shooting guard a pressing need for the Warriors? Not exactly. The big man position is their biggest weakness. Onyeka Okongwu or James Wiseman is probably the main targets for the Warriors. The Cleveland Cavaliers could also draft him, but they already have Kevin Porter Jr. And I can argue that his talent is either on the same level or close to the same level as Edwards. Porter has the athleticism, shot creativity, and size like Edwards does. So the Cavaliers' reason for not taking Edwards would be that they already have a similar player with just as much upside. The Minnesota Timberwolves will be a nice fit also, but they already have Malik Beasley, Josh Okogie, and Jarrett Culver. Now Okogie can play the small forward position because of his length and defensive ability, and so can Jarrett Culver. But the way Malik Beasley played for the Timberwolves after he was traded there leads you to wonder that he maybe is the better fit with D'Lo and Karl Anthony Towns than Edwards is. Beasley's outside shooting and defense jumps out at you. Now Edwards does project as a more versatile offensive player than Beasley, but will Edwards be able to accept his role as a third option on the team? Beasley seemed to not have a problem with it. Now Beasley is a restricted free agent after this season, so you have to factor that into the equation. And if the Timberwolves draft Edwards and keep Beasley, would Edwards be okay with coming off the bench for the foreseeable future? Could he be patient and be a team player? Or would he have a problem with it? I could see the Timberwolves favoring Okongwu over a player like Edwards because of fit with the team. We all know who the New York Knicks want in the draft. It's not even worth discussing it. Edwards could be a nice fit with the Knicks if they're not able to get the guy that they want. But Edwards will not be the Knicks' first choice. And now you have the Atlanta Hawks, a team that already have wing players like Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, and Kevin Huerter. Cam Reddish is a very versatile player, and he could start at the 2 or the 3. But more than likely he's going to start alongside Hunter because of their two-way ability and the lack of defense of Trae Young. And then backing up Reddish you have Kevin Huerter, who is one of the best shooters and passers on the team. Could you move Huerter to the 3? Yeah, you could. But just like with the Timberwolves, would Edwards be okay with coming off the bench? Cam Reddish has a good chance to be a star in this league. With his size at 6'9" and his skill set, he projects as a better player than Edwards. The Hawks would probably be more inclined to trade back in the draft and draft a backup point guard like Tyrese Halliburton or Killian Hayes. Those two would be the best fit for the Hawks. The Detroit Pistons could be a good spot for Edwards. They do have Luke Kennard, but he is not good enough not to draft Edwards, and he also has had injury issues in his short career. But the Pistons have a lot of needs on their roster. Would they rather address their point guard position or their shooting guard position? Or would they want to address their big man position? They traded away Andre Drummond, and Thon Maker and Christian Wood are free agents. The Pistons could value players like LaMelo Ball, Killian Hayes, James Wiseman, Okongwu, and even Obi Toppin over Edwards. Now you have the Chicago Bulls, whose best player plays at the shooting guard position. Now there are rumors about Zach LaVine possibly being an option to be traded this offseason. If the Bulls' plan is to try to trade LaVine, then Edwards would be a perfect fit in Chicago. But if the Bulls intend to keep LaVine, Edwards really doesn't make sense in Chicago, unless they want to play the waiting game with LaVine and have Edwards coming off the bench and see what happens with this team in the next year or so. It's hard to see Edwards getting past the Bulls at 7 if no other team jumps anybody in the top 7. There are reasons why teams will pass on Edwards at the top of the draft. Doesn't mean he is a bad prospect. It might just be a situation where certain teams acknowledge their concerns with Edwards and prefer a prospect at another position. Edwards being drafted to a good organization with good player development could be the key to his success in the NBA. I don't believe he could go to any franchise and thrive. I don't believe that there's really any prospect in this draft that is an absolute lock to be drafted in the top 3. I just believe in a draft that doesn't have a can't-miss prospect like an Anthony Davis, LeBron James, or Zion Williamson. Most teams will prioritize best fit over best available.